Hello.
Check.
Yes.
I'm ugly, so
No camera. I have no camera on my PC.
Oh, same here. I don't have a camera on my desktop.
Yeah, sorry, me neither. Everyone, it seems.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, in terms of a project, I work on everything as well as Justin. So I think most people here are working on all the parts of their games. Yeah, my
Oh
background is
yes,
3D though.
both. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. I can maybe take this, Ernest.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
sure.
yeah, it's I guess I've done most of the concept art for the game. I think that's fair.
Yeah,
You've done a few of the mechs and guns that solo that were his own designs, but I guess in general, I think I set the foundations for the style and stuff like that.
yep.
So um yeah, is there anything specific you want me to cover or that you're interested in? With optimization? Uh, I mean, you gotta lose your expectations for making a game that looks like it was made today. I think that's the start.
Yeah.
Um, and it was actually interesting. Our position was weird because we came as a PC only game, PC VR only game because we were so early. We had a demo out in 2018, and optimization was still an issue, but we got to be a lot more relaxed about it and do things in more conventional ways. So uh, took us about 8 months to get the game refactored just to get on the Quest, and it was a massive undertaking, but since then it's felt worth it. Our overhead's great now. We can more or less chuck things in and it doesn't tank the game, and we can do a lot of prototyping that way. So yeah, I mean, really for us, it was just, I think the biggest thing was finding the appropriate tools, making sure we had the right tools to measure optimization. Because before then, we were just kind of shooting in the dark until we started to explore better and better tools, and it started to almost become like like we would make jokes about that the moon was in a weird shift because the game would just tank for some reason. And once we started to be able to measure uh, our performance, specifically measure performance on the Quest without Unity, with builds that had the profiler built into them, was a massive boost for us, and that let us monitor basically all of the issues that were going on. So yeah, uh, a little bit, I guess, about how we got our game to the level it is we kind of we built the level design from the ground up, considering optimization, meaning the theme can't be something that inherently is over complex, and that's like the difference between like a cyberpunk city with trash cans and doors and railings and all these tiny little objects versus like a desert or an open snowfield or something like that. And so we started kind of from a ground up approach and built even with just our concepts with performance in mind, and then just worked our way to the top that way. And yeah, the performance is relatively good for us right now. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything more specific you'd like me to talk about. Hmm.
Yeah, sure. We when we started working on Titan Zero, we are already expecting a lot of visual fidelity, that we will lose a lot of visual fidelity. So we are already on the moving towards like, we know that Quest is very, like, not as powerful as a PC. So yeah, I feel you guys. It's very well, it's kind of sad, but when it comes to designing or a concept, you have to throw a lot, most of the things, because of the limitation. And yeah, Richard, how did you? Could you add more into it?
Oh yeah. Yeah, like Robert said, some
Low polys
limitations.
and
That's why we have to reduce. Uh, Also, we saw other games that that running on VR that is capable of. That's why we're doing on the Titan Zero. Although it's a not that too low poly, we are keep on improvising and improving it. It's like an evolution of the Titan Zero, and to it's like to achieve what we have to satisfy ourselves. It means that if we are satisfied, then it means any players will be satisfied also. Yeah.
oh yeah, right. Yeah, we actually came from, like, we started from the ground. Like, we optimized, we kind of over optimized, and then now we are going up, like,
Oh,
with the
that's
next
great.
version. Yeah, with the next version we have,
That's a good
we
problem.
added, like, yeah, exactly. It's the other way around. So
Yeah,
we over optimized, and then now we are adding tons of feature, like customization and all that stuff.
great.
So yeah, yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, unless you want us to specifically, like, but I think in general. Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird. Um, I did it the exact opposite way because like I'm a graphics whore basically.
So was I.
Yeah, like I was like I want it to be Call of Duty Infinite in space. Like it was ridiculous. Like my poly counts at the beginning were like I had buildings that were a million polys. It was terrible. Um, yeah, I just kept optimizing it over and over and over again. And every time I saw a game that got away with something that I felt like I could get away with in terms of frame rate, I would just profile that game, and then as far as I was concerned, like if they could do it, then I can do it. And when Star Wars came out, that made me realize that my overhead projections were like lower than a lot of other VR games were going for, and I could get away with more stuff. And then once like that's another thing. Like I'll optimize it as much as I can, and then I'll see the overhead, and then I'll stick more shiny stuff in where that overhead was, and then I'll just keep doing that like over and over again. So like I'll have a whole lot of performance and be like, oh great, and then I'll throw like a bunch of transparent clouds into
Yeah,
like, like I do that all the time, and I'm like, oh yeah, I went too far, and then I have to go back. Like there was a lot of volumetric fog I had, and I had to kill it and
Man.
put fog in there instead. Um, right now, the main difference between the PC VR version and then the Quest version that I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna have to completely redesign the cockpit for the Quest version because I can't get away with all the transparency that I have.
Mm.
we
Um,
had to do that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
yeah, it's and for me, I wanted it to be like like Gundam Unicorn, like I sit here all day with just random robot anime playing in the background, and the way their HUDs work, like the way the Neon Genesis HUD works, is like it doesn't have any tactical advantage at all, but it's just like cool. You know what I mean? Like there's like multiple overlays of transparent stuff everywhere, and to me that's like one of the main things that makes it feel like an anime in the first place.
Mm.
So for the PCVR, the PCVR version and the Quest version are just going to be like
You can
two
maybe
different.
get away with that if your if your empty alpha space is like super trimmed back and stuff like that. Like I don't really think a UI is a limitation in our game for like transparent stuff because like I plan to put quite a few more layers like you're talking about, and so long as like the only thing that's showing is the art, or the only thing that's uh transparent is basically like if you have like a circular diagram in front, like that whole circle should be cut out, right? Like
Right.
if you're doing things like that, like I think it should be okay.
Yeah, like at first, like my Iron Man, 3D HUD widget was like one widget, like one 3D widget, and I think I have like seven of them.
Mm.
So it's like, and every time I get more performance, I'm like, all right, cool,
Add another layer.
like I can throw another one on top of it. I was using like some of the volumetric clouds that they have in the engine, and then they updated it and they broke everything because they only worked in one eye. And then I switched to True Sky, and True Sky is amazing, but I have not had time to really figure it out yet because I played what's that game? It's the Ace. Um, it's 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 the jet game, the VR jet game. What is it? Wingman, Project
Fleet.
Wingman.
Oh.
Like I played. Yes, yes, yeah. It's the Project Wingman VR is amazing, and the they got the True Sky system to work and keep the frame rate for the most part. So once
On
I saw that,
Quest?
no, 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 no,
Oh,
no, no,
I
no,
was like,
no,
what?
no,
I
no,
was like,
no,
what?
no, no, no.
PC guy.
I tried to build one True Sky level on Quest, and it wouldn't even run. Like it just. Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
I can go. Okay. um, so the cockpit specifically was I mean, I think it can be said for all of us. It's like a huge fantasy that we're all building. Like that's the core of all of this. This is like, it's a huge passion behind this. We know that there's a huge market for this type of stuff because people have been responding, and I had a very particular design in mind because um and not to harp on you, Super Saiyan, but I've always not really liked the larger cockpits and things like that, which is it's totally its own fantasy and it's like badass in its own right. But I we come much more from like the cramped like realism of like if the space isn't useful, it doesn't need to be there because it's a waste of resources kind of thing. So like cramped, dirty, stinky, like metallic like cockpits where you're
You guys'
just
cockpit
crammed
is
in there.
amazing. You
I
guys' cockpit is
appreciate it.
amazing, man. Like
Thanks, man.
this, yeah, it's beautiful. It like
It,
I
Thanks.
just you can just sit in it and like be happy.
I literally went to recruiting officer camps
Hmm.
because they would have like a tank and I'd pretend I wanted to like join the military just so I could get in the tank and I literally just sat in them taking pictures and like trying to get like the feel and bring it home and like get on my computer and just like design a bunch of stuff. And then yeah, that translated a lot to building the space as the cockpit, and then it was really nice because I actually designed the cockpit in VR with Gravity Sketch, which was a massive difference to like sketching on paper. And it makes sense, right? You're building something that's gonna eventually be seen in VR. So uh, yeah, I would basically put my chair on the ground and sketch around my chair. So I could see my chair in space, sit in it, and I just draw the cockpit around me and build it. And we went through multiple iterations, and yeah. The I think the cockpit is a key element to all of our games. So um, yeah, there's something really special to be said about all of ours, I think.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Ergonomics is a huge one, right? I'm sure we all have been through that. Like the ergonomics of like game designers have never had to consider like human form, smallest person to biggest person. I happen to have a 7 foot friend, almost 7 foot friend, and a really short 4.5 foot friend. So like they've been my test subjects for years. But yeah, the ergonomics of stuff is a completely other ball game that had to be tackled. That stuff's it's do or die in my opinion, like for interaction. So yeah, it's important to reduce those iteration cycles down as quickly as possible, or else yeah, it's just rough.
Oh yeah, our cockpits are actually designed based on the sizes, and it's more of we're on the side of more of like an industrial type, like it's clanky, heavy, and all that stuff. And we have this like huge mech that we want the pilots or the players to feel like they're on a really big mech. So yeah, and I think we were just kind of putting up like references and all that stuff, so that we could come up with a really good one. Um, and yeah, and also that's part of what we are actually um updating right now. So we wanted to make the cockpit more feel more like you're in a heavy slow mech, like a tank, but not that too like how should I say that? But it feels big actually. So that's what we are trying to feel put in there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so primarily it was about speed. Like speed was the first and most important aspect of the game. Like I don't know if you guys like watch a whole bunch of mech anime, but like I'm a robot anime like psycho basically, and that's pretty much all I watch all the time. And yeah, yeah, pretty much. But the thing that I realized in making this game, I like Robotech robots more than Gundam robots, and I feel like that's blasphemous in and of itself. But when I think of the combat that I was trying to emulate, it's the scenes, it's they call it the Itagi missile circus, basically, when you shoot 60 missiles at somebody at one time, and then they have to do all kinds of crazy, ridiculous things to dodge those missiles. And that's pretty much all I've ever wanted to do was that. And I was like, I'm gonna make it. I'm also like, I'm working on 1v1 right now, but eventually, I'll work my way up to three versus three, and to get the speed that like basically it's armored core for answer speed, and some people like that fast, and then some people don't like that fast. And I pretty much play Doom. Like I play games where uh, if you can't blink, and your eyes start watering and stuff because you can't blink. To me, those are like my favorite games. The games where you can't blink for long periods of time because if you do, you'll die.
It's an interesting metric.
So like Ultra Kill and Doom and Doom Eternal, like the speed games, and I wanted that in VR. Like I was like I wanted that in VR. Like I didn't. I felt like there were enough big robot jocks robots, and I was like, I want to do the the robots that make you feel nauseous, like and then um like yeah, like that was another thing. Like I don't know if you guys have played Detached. There are some games where they go really far with locomotion, and I wanted to go as far as humanly possible because that's what I wanted to feel. Like I wanted to feel like you were basically like a moving machine of death. So in my um the way I thought of it was like I wanted it to be Tony Hawk, like Tony Hawk and Titanfall mixed together, basically. Where you got to do rails, you know what I mean? You have to keep the rails going, and like I'm still working on the rail system, but I wanted to be I don't know if you guys play like Melty Blood or Blaze Blue, but it's basically Ragnar's moveset in 3D in VR.
I
Like
love that you pretty much said, I don't care what kind of speed you want my game to be. Like hearing you
Ye-
talk is super validating and like honestly just gives me inspiration to like push harder on like the specific nerds about the game, right? Like I listen to people talk about, well, if this was a real mech, it wouldn't be doing this and that. And I'm like, yeah, but like that's not the feel, dude. Like that's just not the feel I'm going for. And you
Right.
don't even you're way past that. You're like, I don't give a
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah.
using
Nah.
Yeah.
references. I have no
Yeah.
clue what you're even saying, but like I can tell
Hmm.
the love is there like 10,000%. And I think you will have one of the best games for it because it'll be such a gem. It'll be super unique because you're putting your exact flavor into that, and that's
Yes.
wicked to hear
Mm.
firsthand, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, and honestly, like, I refer people to you guys' games, like, all the time. Like, there are people they'll be like, "Well, why do your mechs
Mm.
have hands?" And I'll be like, Anime, bro." And then like they'll be like, "Well, in my personal opinion," I'm like, "You're talking about robot jocks. I got you, and I love robot jocks, but that's not what I was going for. But if that's what you want, here are the links to these gentlemen over here that make these fine games.
Mhm.
And you know what I'm saying? Like you know, like I want this is for weebs. This is for super anime nerds. This is not for the big stompy. And I love big stompy. Like I play Mech
Cool.
Warrior. I play all you guys' games. I was playing you guys' games last week. Um they're all amazing. Like and I feel like the genre has, you know what I mean, like enough space for us to all exist together.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
Yeah,
like
correct.
like Armor Core, like the thing about Armor Core is like I went back and I played them all from the beginning. Like I got a Vita, I got you know emulators and everything, and I went back to one, and I realized how much of those games we didn't understand when we were children, like, and we just played them anyway. You know what I mean? Like the systems in that game are like so convoluted and ridiculous that you, as a grown man, I still don't understand all of them. But we played them and we loved them, and it, you know what I mean? Like it didn't really matter. And I don't know, like from I just wanted it to be like a performance thing because the thing is like when you really start understanding how that game works, like you can block rail cannon blast from behind. You know what I mean? Like over your shoulder without looking. You can like like I got grapples in it. I got the Devil May Cry polarity inverse. You know, like pull to you or you pull to them. I've got uppercuts in it. I've got ground slams in it.
Oh my god.
I've got parries in it. I've got
Mhm.
wall runs in it. You know what I mean? Like I was, like everybody's like, "Oh, locomotion, let's be safe," and I was like, "No." But like, if you and I warn you in the tutorial, like if you don't feel comfortable falling from 500 feet, don't play my game. Like like if you don't feel comfortable like bunny hopping across the world at the speed of light, don't play my game. Don't just that's not. You know what I mean? Right.
We just have a really good sound guy, and he just does good shit, and I don't really have to tell him anything. I'm just like, make epic music. He's like, all right. But currently, we don't actually have music in our running game. It's more of like kind of a hype title music. I'll link it
Yeah.
after the chat. Mm, mm, yeah, it's brutal. It sucks. That's it. It was terrible. Steam's UI is like built for broken brains, and I like, especially because I'm kind of an idiot, so I'm just like, give me clear buttons and an organized UI, and then it's the complete opposite of that. Like figuring out how depots and branches and builds worked, and I found out it was just a little here button that was highlighted slightly bluer than the rest of the text. Yeah, it's I think I went through so much pain with it. I almost made like a getting a game on Steam for Dummies guide, because I don't think anybody should have suffered as much as I did trying to get on Steam. And then Oculus, huh? Yeah, yes. Oh yeah. Oh man, I'll hook you up, because yeah, nobody should suffer that. Yeah, it's Oculus was I can't even remember. Oculus was a blur, Ernest. It was like it was not nearly as bad because it's such a brand new market. I think they just kind of
Yeah.
are evolved by default. Um, but we ran into quite a few problems with the RPCs, or what are they called? Yeah, RPCs.
Mhm.
But
No, not RPCs, VRCs, I think.
VRC is RP, yeah,
Yeah.
RPC is yeah, VRCs. But yeah, Oculus wasn't so bad for us. It was just it was honestly very obvious stuff that was well documented, so you can't really complain when you submit and they reject you for something that you read. Um, but yeah, I could talk for a week about Steam being terrible for putting a game on. Mm, mm, mm,
Apparently, Justin from Samurai Slaughterhouse, he got application space working just now, and apparently it's amazing. So
mm.
I look forward to that.
There was there was tech before that, right? Steam had something like that. It didn't quite work very well. Like we have lots of grids in our prototype rooms, and
Mhm.
if the FPS drops, everything just turns like wiggly, watery mush. So I'm
Yeah,
hoping,
I forced it off because I don't like it.
yeah, yeah. So I'm hoping it's a massive upgrade to that, because yeah, I think it's a blessing across the industry if it's legit.
DLSS is nice though. DLSS is very helpful though.
Are you using that for your
Mhm.
project?
Yeah, I
Oh,
cut it on.
cool,
Yeah, I cut it
cool.
on. So like right now, there on Steam you can play without DirectX 12 or with it, and
Mm,
with if you have it, then you can enable it.
mm.
It's not bad.
Right.
Right.
I don't think we really have any issues with code for performance. We kind of have an internal rule that we pretty much don't update our game in the middle of
Yeah,
development. We the
not
beginning of the
game.
project had a pretty hardcore veteran. He's like 30 years in the industry, and he was actually the founder. He was co-founder of this game, and that was his rule because he worked in games long enough. He's like, if the game is working and it's doing the things you need it to do, you work with the performance you have, because yeah, that stuff can crush your game. Like those updates don't play nice with each other, especially when they're in preview, especially when they're in or beta or whatever. Yeah, and that's why, because when I was talking to you, that's why we're stuck on the built-in render pipeline, which it blows, and we've gone to URP a few times just to poke at it and instantly pull out because things just get trashed. So yeah, we are kind of waiting for that to mature a little bit more, but we make very, very particular jumps for very specific optimization things, and you got to just draw every single line to every other piece of tech you're running in your project, or you can just make a huge mess. So we've pretty much we did two jumps now since we started this, to 2018, and now the 2020, the latest 2021.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's kind of where we're just sitting parked, which is a shame because I mean, I'm gonna say I will get Bloom in this game when it's all said and done, because it kills me. A Met game without Bloom is like, it's
Right.
just soulless, dude.
Right.
It hurts.
It's very important.
It hurts. So yeah, I'm hoping that I'm just ideally for me, I just keep kind of bouncing to URP and seeing if URP can handle what we're doing, because we just have a lot of custom shaders and stuff too that it starts to hose us, like, because we have our shaders down pretty simplistic, like mobile shaders and things like that. So we yeah, things just can't move really at this point. But yeah, and in terms of code, I mean, artists, unless you want to cover that one code issue that I hardly understand
yeah.
how
We
to fix.
had an issue which we spent almost a week on solving. We were lagging out because of, in the end, apparently was input. and we had basically multiple input streams. So if you guys are using XR interactions at all, we basically every script we had, like basically the only problem was that it said new when we were assigning the XR interactions. And that caused like multiple streams of data to exist. And what's weird is that this issue only like popped up, and we noticed it after we after we did a massive change to our project and worked in like guns, basically like gun swapping, gun prefabs, basically a ton of systems to support that. And that just basically just took it over the limit by adding literally like two
Yeah.
more streams to like a pool of 8.
Yeah.
And yeah, that really confused us because like, what have we changed? Okay, so we changed weapons, like we worked on weapons, right? And now after like a week of debugging, apparently input is breaking.
Mm.
So yeah, don't do multiple streams, do a static maybe data object that just contains all the info. That's what we learned from that. Yeah.
Mm. 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 Mhm. Mm. 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 Yeah, because that's really all we're after. We don't really care about any of the other yeah. So, yeah. Yeah.
No, when we started, I was like, we were like 4 years working with Unity. When we started out, well, in our heads, we need to have some sort of framework so that it's kind of organized and more standard in our own way and how we wanted to work. So we had problems with shaders because we were using the standard uh, shading system of Unity, and it kind of like it kind of slows things down. It's and heavy. So but we because we over optimized, so we kind
I
of get
love
out of
that word. Every time you say over optimize, I laugh
like, yeah, we
instantly.
were really doing a heavy optimization when it comes to poly counts and all that stuff, shading, and so we kind of got away from it. So, but at the moment we our part of our upgrade is we're transferring from standard to URP, and it's kind of cool because we kind of can do a couple of things because it's lighter and it's yeah, and we also switched from a standard input system to the new input system, which is uh, also cooler because we have our inputs in one part of the framework, and that's when we want to add input or modify something, we know where we can find it. It's just in one place. And yeah, and it kind of control. We kind of did the framework like how UE4 do its thing. Like it's got player controller in one place, and it's got pawns that it can possess and all that stuff. So it's easier to kind of modify things. So yeah, I guess basically that's it. So
It's actually not bad. I mean, once you get used to it and once you get your brain around how it works, it reminds me of a lot of like the old, graphics editing, visual scripting tools like Inferno, like like the old stuff where you just plug all the nodes in. But the logic makes sense. I mean, I originally started coding in ActionScript. So like, it's kind of just progression of that. In terms of frame rate and performance and stuff, the main thing is just to never cast. Like most functions, like most people will cast like 6, 7 times. You know what I mean, to the same object, and that's what kills. Like all those queries is what kills performance on the blueprints. If you cast in the game object or like the player character, like at the beginning, and then just refer to it, then it works pretty good. I haven't really played with the nativization yet. I've nativized a few blueprints just to see what happens. But anything really complicated, it doesn't work. And right now, any of my characters that have sliceable skeletal meshes, they crash if I try to spawn them. So I'm using load volumes, like low level volumes to load and unload them until I figure out why the spawners don't want to act right. Yeah, it's good fun.
cool. No, I was just saying, yeah, UE4 is really cool. Like it- you focused on your content instead of like in Unity you have to think of like how things are going to work, like frameworks and all that stuff. Uh, Unreal is like they make the framework and you focus with the content. Everything is already like out of the box. Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
so
they
make
and
games
they
with
don't
your
collide. Yes, exactly. They make their own games,
yeah.
and they each of those features don't collide with each other. Like they work really well.
Independently of each other. Yeah. And that
Yeah,
that, that is
yeah,
awesome.
We talked about that a bit, that like it's kind of important for the people developing the tools to be making games with those
Yeah.
tools, or
yes,
you become your best, use case
yeah,
if you do that. And well, they've got a lot of games under their belts with that engine, and
right.
yeah, I think that speaks volumes right there.
Just so you guys know, for VR, for like Bloom and stuff like that, and Unreal, you want to disable all of them and the actual game like profile project settings, and then what you do is you make a custom post process volume, and then you override them, because otherwise it'll add like all this ridiculous overhead because the defaults have all this ridiculous overhead for no reason, and you have
Mm,
to force a lot of the stuff off.
Mm.
Like let's say for example you say you don't want bloom, I mean not bloom, blur for example. Blur will still be on by default unless you globally cut it off. So like right now, if I cut bloom on universally, I'll lose 8 frames. But if I force bloom off globally and then make a custom post process volume and then unbound it so it affects the entire level, then I get my frames back, but I still have bloom.
mm.
So, because yeah, I can't have lightsabers that don't blown.
Yeah, it's a crime.
Yeah, it's like
Dude, yeah, lasers
Yeah.
too. I'm like, our lasers look like
Yeah.
not lasers.
I mean, I like okay, so at one point I've changed my projectile classes a lot, and the new lasers have fake like faux lights that travel with the projectile basically, and they have LEDs on 'em. So because I have these spider tank meshes that are basically they have like 7 turrets on them, and it just turns into a bullet hell situation basically. And if you put 2 of them on the screen at one time, then your frame rate goes to
And you're getting
20.
this to run on the Quest at some point, or you're in the process, or it's already done?
I have a Quest build, and now I'm just
Oof.
basically, you know, um, basically what I did was is I got a bunch of Quest games and a bunch of the Rift versions, and then I just rip them apart and compare the file sizes against each other, and then compare the textures against each other, and then like just look at the poly reductions that they were using, and it gives you a good idea. Like like when you see, like when you get the Rift game and it's 12 gigs, and then the Quest version is 3.5, and you're like, oh, all right, I got it. So that's a thing. That's why I always try to get cross buy games, because you can compare them against each other, and it's
Mm.
very informative.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, we do. We've had a few talks about kind of how this. Ernest, actually, go ahead if you want to cover this. You're speaking up.
No, really,
Yeah.
not quite sure what to say about that. I
Oh,
mean,
okay, sure, okay. Well, yeah, I think we're just kind of taking the mileage approach here. We've
yeah,
done kind of very specific testing quite a bit when we need a very specific thing tested, but we think that kind of shoots you in the foot in the long run. What we think is the most important is people just organically playing the game, and letting the natural stuff bubble to the top. Because we'll find ourselves fixing things that aren't really an issue. Like, but more bugs exist than we know about, but they've just never been triggered yet. So you don't need to fix those. And it's not, we don't care to fix every bug. We care to fix the bugs that live in the space of
yeah,
organic gameplay. So uh, yeah, it's really our play tests have more so just been like an hour and a half of hanging out, check out our new content, and we're we have felt that a little bit where people will go on a rant about this thing they want to see, in the single player campaign, which is, a year and a half out, and it's like, thanks for that information, but it's just not relevant currently. And we honestly, I've always taken everything from a sense of like, we're privileged to just have these people's attention and have them playing our game and giving their opinion and caring, or like, players get really frustrated with the game sometimes and they get really mad because it's not being built a certain way. And I think that's something to be proud of because they are invested enough and care enough. And so the same thing kind of goes for testing. I think you kind of get the good with the bad. Sometimes someone will come in and they're just laying down just incredible feedback back to back to back. I'm typing as fast as I can. And other times, the ideas, I'm just like, okay, okay. And I write just about everything down, just so when I decompress after the playtest, I can sift through it, look at what's relevant, and kind of like bring the best to the top. Um, it's Playtesting has been a pretty interesting thing for us. I actually really enjoy it because, and I'm sure most of you guys know this. There's what the playtester says, and then what the playtester means. And the most important thing is to understand what they actually mean, because the language they use, the vocabulary they use, is going to be, you know, like you're saying, there's a bias and a skew towards it. There was actually a conversation about laser weapons. This person was saying how, they didn't like the laser weapon, they wanted
yeah,
it to be a beam weapon, and they were talking about mechanics, but what they actually meant was art. And if you listen to the conversation and the nuances carefully enough, and that's kind of something we've had to, I guess, get better at, is understanding their intent. Because as a developer, we have to almost protect them from their own, I guess, simplification of what games are, and be able to deliver what they want, kind of in a way where they don't even know it. It's kind of a weird little game to play. But yeah, in general, playtesting has just been like, let's jump in, let's have a bunch of fun, and we just observe them. We get as many people to screen share as possible, and we just observe gameplay. And anybody that wants to speak out can speak out, and we just sit. We both sit with a document open and just type out as much as we can. And usually every single week we'll get 5 to 8 issues, bugs, or concerns that are very relevant to like our next week's push in content. So yeah, that's pretty much how we navigate playtesting. Mm, cool.
I mean, honestly, I was at one point I was just so starved for feedback. I was like, anybody who give me feedback will be my friend. Like I didn't really care where I was getting it from. Um, there's a lot of okay, so I don't know, like I'm a boomer, I guess. Not that's what they call us, like old gamers or whatever. So like I have old gamer expectations, and there's a lot of like new, um, like design methodologies and stuff that they apply to things. And like doing these tutorials, I've done the tutorial. Like I'm on the 11th version of the
Mm.
tutorial, basically, and it's funny because like all of these conventions that we're using are like like established video game control scheme tropes that what I'm saying since we've been using since the dawn of time for the most part. But in VR, like from a lot of people, they become completely different. You know what I mean? If you explained a lot of our mechanics in a game that had a controller, they would immediately understand them because they have 5 years, 10 years, 15 years of muscle memory from controller games. But when you apply the exact same mechanic in VR, they're like, I don't know what to do. And it's
Yeah,
weird. It's it's
very
it's
true.
it's really weird. And like some people are like seriously enthusiastic, and then some people get really mad. And like to what you were saying about your feedback, like I just thank everybody. I was like, well, thank you that you are so passionate about this because obviously like it's important to you, and obviously what I'm doing is somewhat close enough to what you want in your life that you feel so strongly about it, and I really appreciate that. But like gamers' expectations are crazy. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing. Like, you're like, at this point now, I just thank everybody. I just like thank you very much. I'm a solo developer, and I appreciate your patience and stuff. But I haven't gone to sleep in 3 days, so I'm gonna do that for a little while, and I'll be right back with you guys. You know what I mean? Like, and usually like I feel bad. Like I go to sleep for like 4 hours because somebody said they had a bug or something. Um, in terms of feedback, uh, the last 2 times I did performance passes, one time the dude's Steam configuration was set wrong, and then the other time the dude's hardware was under spec, and he wouldn't tell me what his spec was until like way later. You know what I mean? So like stuff like that, like for me, when I'm like, I just got funding basically today, so like my
Ooh,
life is
congrats.
like, yeah, man, like my life is completely different now, like because I'm gonna, yeah, thank you. But before
Congratulations.
I was making decisions based on like getting enough sales to pay my rent. You know what I mean? Like not based on what I thought was the best decision for the game. And I had to explain that to people. People be like, "Well, why did you do that?" And I'm like, "Cuz I'm poor. That's why I did that." I was like, "I will fix it later, but right now I am poor." But yeah, no, it's I learned a lot. The control scheme, because I put so much like basically like I wanted the framework for a fighting game. You know what I mean? But in VR. So like that's why I have counters and parries and blocks and pistol juggles and ground slams and all that stuff. And explaining all those mechanics in VR to people is a lot, especially when we don't have, like the same budgets that everybody else has. Cause like when people start telling me about like scenes and exposition and stuff, all I can see is the budget. I'm like, oh yeah, you're talking about voiceover. You're talking about uh more keyframed animations or more like you know what I mean, like more motion capture for like
Yeah.
the dude who's in the store that explains it to you, you know what I mean, like. And I set the game up basically emulating Armor Core, like directly, like the same, the turn 3 times and then you're approved, like that type thing, like the pilot's exam thing. And I was looking at my stats for the demo, and I was looking at my stats for the game, and you can see that there's like they're the hardcore like Armored Core people who are willing to sit there and do a 30-minute, you know what I mean, tutorial. And then there are the people who are like, I want to play the way you play in the videos now. And if they don't like there's a certain group that like if they don't get that feeling in the first 15 minutes, then they're pissed. You know what I mean? And that was something that I had to figure out how to get by. And a friend of mine was like, you got to do the Halo thing. You got to Halo it. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, go back and play Halo again. And I went back to Master Collection and I went all the way through them. And I realized like how much like hand holding there is. Like in the first 6 hours of Combat Evolved, like the way it works. You know what I mean? They break every mechanic up. You know what I mean? And that's something that I was talking to you about, Sean. Like I didn't I didn't think about it that way. You know what I mean? And now that I'm going back and I'm doing these soft, introduction levels, because a friend of mine, he was like, where's the level where the bad guys shoot at you and you shoot back at them, but they can't really hurt you? And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, go play Halo. And I was like, he's right. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you first, like if you play Halo on heroic, they skip the calibration sequence and then the guy gets blown up. You know what I mean? That's the beginning of the game. If you play it on normal, they walk you through that whole long drawn out sequence when they ask you if you want to look up and down, if you want, your controls to be inversed. And if you play Combat Evolved in normal, they actually take your grenades away because they don't trust you. Like, but then if you play it in heroic, they give you all the grenades you want because you're in that small, you know what I mean? You're in those corridors or whatever. And if you don't have any experience with that, you'll blow yourself up. In the mission in Reach where you're sniping all the I call them whoop whoops, but you know what I'm talking about, the elites. Basically, they give you way more bullets than the. What's up? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like we always go, we go kill the grunts and then kill the whoop whoops, like or kill the whoop whoops first. Like it's the whole thing. But yeah, like they give you more bullets than that gun can hold in that mission. Like, and that's like there's all kinds of little things. Like, and then if you play it on normal, it takes two head. If you play it on hardcore, it takes two headshots to kill one an elite, and if you play it on normal, it takes one. So if you keep that gun like that, the one that they issue you at the beginning of the mission the whole time, it's like a buff basically, and it's you know what I mean. Like they give you these long uh venues to like like there's a sequence where it's like learn how to drive the tank, learn how to drive the warthog, learn how to you know what I mean, like, and they break each one up into multiple sequences. And what I did was is like I threw everything at you in the first level, and some people were very upset with that. So now what I'm doing is like I'm doing the Halo style where like the first level you can't even fly basically, so you can get used to each individual element because yeah, like the flight system is actually very very simple and straightforward, but when you combine it with the melee stuff and the combo system and the movement and the speed and all the what I mean, like melee air combat stuff that I wanted to do, it I guess it's overwhelming, and then people get pissed off because they're like, in the video you look like it's what like it's a whole thing. I'm like, yeah, but it's my game, obviously I'm gonna be play it all day, every day. Like if
I'm
you,
actually terrible at our game.
Yeah.
I get my ass whooped by. it's it,
I kind of already forgot how we did that. I think we initially started with the internal testing. Like that's the hardest part because most of our testers are like PC gamers, and they were expecting it to work like on PC. And I was like, no, this is kind of different. So, and then we got out of that, and then we started doing the early access and see how people react to how they will react to the game, and kind of like yeah, it's cool and average and all that stuff. But I've seen a couple of people who are really into it, and I was like, wow, this is amazing because this is our first game, like our baby game, and well, just what Justin said, we were focusing more on like what are those things that we are going to fix are mostly relevant to what we are. I mean, those comments that we are focusing on are more of like what we are going to fix on the next 2 weeks. And I think what we're doing like what the normal QA is, normal process is. So we just fix those relevant stuff, and then we move on, and then see what people would say, and then we move on again, and then fix those stuff. Those kinds of things. We don't have any really special way of doing QAs, but it's really very interesting how people would react. Just like what Super Saiyan said, they are all crazy. They expect too much, and we haven't had a lot of sleep, so we gotta go to bed and fix that at a later part. Things like those. Yeah, I guess that's it. I mean, we
Artist,
don't have any
if
special.
I can chime in really quick, I think
Yeah.
this is maybe important, but Arnis really pushed us. He was the reason we started doing weekly
Mhm.
playtests. And I push back on it so much because it eats up so much time and it's just a ton of
Yes.
Yeah.
effort to get a build ready. Like you're spending half your day just like getting the build ready. And
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
rough. It was really rough to adjust to that. But as soon as we started doing that, it's like you ever had, I don't know if you guys ever had those times where you just almost feel a little bit directionless, or you're working on something for too long because you just, whatever, you're just too into your own thing. And man, does it pulls your head out of your butt every Friday. You're like, what am I thinking? Like I'm sculpting the bottom of
Yeah.
this foot for like 6 hours that nobody's gonna see. Like,
Yeah. Right.
it is the biggest like orienter you can have. So if you guys aren't doing weekly play tests,
Mm.
it's rough, but I think it's worth its weight in gold in terms of just keeping your North Star. And that's really defined. It's interesting. We almost kind of have like a week of crud we throw at them.
Mm. Mm.
We know it's going to break a lot. We pull all the relevant bugs because some aren't as bad as others. And then the next week is like we give them a more polished version of that thing, and then we move on. And we do have our milestones. We have our monthly milestones and our biweekly milestones and things like that. But in there, we're constantly testing with people and getting feedback and stuff. And it's I think was a game changer for us because we would go. I mean, I think I went like 6 months without putting out an update. Like just brutal
Mhm.
stuff where I'm just like, it's not ready, it's not good enough, and it's that's also super poisonous anyway. So
Yeah.
it's stay
Mm.
vulnerable and test frequently has been awesome for us.
All right. Cool. Cool.
Right.
Don't get sued.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice meeting everybody. Yeah, yeah,
Nice meeting
Nice
everyone.
meeting you guys.
Thanks for having us here.
it's cool to see the faces behind all these games too. Like I don't know, it's interesting. Yeah, yeah, it's
Have a
Yeah,
good
you
one,
too.
everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us,
Thank
man.
you. All right.
Thanks, man. See you.
Thank you.
See
Thank
you
you for
guys.
having us.
Bye.